So we're going to, I believe this is ballot order, so we'll just we'll start with our 2-minute openings, and we are going to start with Laura Craig.
Hello, everybody. I know a few people in the audience from a long time ago. Those of you who don't know me, I've been a lifelong resident here in Steamboat Springs. I grew up here 47 years in the school district, or in the Steamboat Valley of Steamboat Springs. I also am an educator of 30 years experience, and I've also taught in Steamboat Springs Middle School for the last 24 years. I have a tremendous passion for education and for the academic and emotional well-being of our students. So I've dedicated a lot of my energies outside of the school as well to support youth education and initiatives that help students make healthy lifestyle choices. I've been involved in Historic Preservation Advisory Commission, the Youth Advocacy Project. I've volunteered at Omnia Grand Futures Prevention Coalition, and I currently am a part of the Steamboat Symphony Orchestra Board. I also, even though I retired, I feel like education is still a passion for me, and I would like to continue my efforts to support students in this area. In addition, I'm a mom. I have 2 children that I've raised here in this school district. Both of them are older, but through their struggles and their successes, I often have been able to see them in my teaching of students. And so I think that gives me sort of a passion for making sure that my students have all the opportunities that they need to be successful. As a parent, a community member, and an educator, I feel like I have a unique perspective to help the school district move in its positive momentum.
Thank you. And I think just to keep this easy, we're going to just go down the line. So Kelly, I'm going to have you go next.
Good evening. My name is Kelly Latterman. I'm running for a seat on the Steamboat Springs School Board because of my professional and personal background in education. I bring a relevant skill set to the board through my professional experience. For years, I worked as a senior policy specialist with all 50 state legislatures, where I would travel the country. I would testify in front of those legislatures on what the best research-based policies were around school leadership, as well as rural education, and also in K-12 school governance. In that time, I really had the chance to dig into what the research says is best. And that's what I would continue to do on the school district. I would make data-driven decisions grounded in research. Here in Steamboat, I continue with that background in education. I now work with Junior Achievement, a nonprofit that promotes financial literacy, entrepreneurship, and college and career readiness. But when I really stopped to think about why I want to spend my time on this volunteer role, it's because of my own personal experience in education. As a middle schooler, I experienced a depressed skull fracture. I had to relearn everything: reading, math, following directions, everything else. It was through an incredibly supportive community and teachers that devoted themselves to personalized learning that I was able to move forward. They gave me home phone numbers. They came late, stayed late and came early, all in order to support what I needed. And it is my intention as a school board member to provide that personalized opportunity and support in education for every student of our school district. I want to serve on a board that is driven by data, but makes decisions that they've talked to the community about first. My guiding question as a school board member is always going to be, what is best for our students? Thank you.
Thank you. Kim, you're next.
Thanks, Lisa and the pilot for hosting. Hi, everyone. My name is Kim Brack. I am a 7th-generation Colorado native. Much to my dad's chagrin, however, I had my babies in Virginia, but I did bring them back here in time to raise them. I have my psychology degree and spent time as an ABA therapist for very young children on the spectrum, so I can appreciate firsthand the effectiveness of early interventionists and the power of that. I spent time at Richmond Behavioral Health Authority as an alcohol and addiction counselor, so I'm very aware of the social and criminal impact of substance abuse on a community. When we moved back to Steamboat with my 3 girls, we registered them at Soda Creek Elementary. When I entered my 2nd grader's classroom to find a highly organized young teacher managing 21 2nd graders, all by herself, I was stunned. In North Carolina, every classroom K through 4th has a lead teacher, an assistant, and if they need a para for a student, they get that as well. That was it for me. I asked, how can I help? And I've been a fixture in the school district ever since. I was co-chair of the PIC at the middle school and Soda Creek, and I'm proud to say that in those years, through fundraisers such as the Steamboat Sneak and the middle school carnival and the hard work from other parent volunteers, we were able to supply teachers with science labs, computer curriculum, PE equipment, classroom libraries, and more. I was also asked to be a part of the Strategic Planning Committee to help steer the district in the direction of our school district into the future with attainable, progressive, measurable goals. I have also spent time on a few nonprofits. I love books, so one of my organizations that I'm most proud of is Book Trails. I was a founding member of that Literacy Nature program to help close that summer gap that we see happening in all of our schools. I believe that with almost 11 years experience in this school district and in the community, I could be a terrific conduit between the community's desires, the needs of our educators, and most important, the future of our kids.
Thank you, Kim. Joey, it's your turn.
Thank you. My name's Joey Andrew, and I'm running for one of the 4-year seats for the Steamboat Springs Board of Education. I've had the pleasure for the last 6 years of serving on the Board of Education and wish to continue to do so. The board and the district have a lot of ongoing projects, and I would like to continue to be involved with that, providing the background knowledge that has been established over those last 6 years as I've worked on the strategic plan, Education Fund Board, OCs, 2 facility master plans, a couple of bonds, and a couple of mill levies. My background in Steamboat is a 4th-generation resident who had the opportunity to study here from preschool all the way until high school in 12th grade. I took a degree from the University of Denver and then went and studied and traveled abroad. After that, I came home and returned to the Yampa Valley and worked in family business as a truck driver, distribution manager, and then left family business and moved on to hospitality and hospitality management. For me, education is not just about the grades on the report cards, but it's making sure that our students, the district's end products, are ready and prepared for the world that's ahead of them. Whether they go on to academia, or to be a truck driver, a plumber, or, quite frankly, a profession we haven't even thought of yet. Because that is the way in which the world is evolving and changing. And with that, I am going to be asking for you to vote for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Joey. Tony.
Yep, I'm Tony Rosso, running for the 4-year school board also. I'm running for the Steamboat Springs School Board because I want to be your community voice on the board. I'm a lifelong educator, advocate of youth activities, and a parent. I believe that it is our duty of elected officials to work together with the entire community of Steamboat to address the challenges facing our schools. My approach will be to listen to the community, learn from teachers, students, parents, community members about the needs facing our schools, and act to ensure that we make decisions that are best interest of our students, teachers, and community. If elected, I believe I will be my duty to hold every person involved in Steamboat School District to the highest standard. As a former educator, I've taught all ages, from kindergarten to college students, at public schools and at Stanford New Schools, a division of Stanford University. I come from a family of educators and am a proud, lifelong supporter and product of public schools. I'm a local business owner with a focus on service to those of Steamboat Springs community, with a mission of providing a safe and positive learning environment for kids. I have founded affordable youth sports opportunities for children in Routt County. While nationwide participation in youth sports is going down, many boys and girls participate in Steamboat Youth Athletics that I have founded. I've facilitated growth and progress through Steamboat Youth Athletics while keeping the program affordable and appropriate. My children are 6th generation Steamboat residents with a family ranching homestead dating back 120 years and still active. My father-in-law was an All-American wrestler for Steamboat and an honor roll student. My family has a true love and appreciation for this valley. Education, children have always been a priority in our community, and I want to ensure this legacy.
Thank you. Okay, we'll begin with questions, Kelly, and we'll just kind of go down the line and give everyone a chance to answer the question first. So the first question, addressing mental health issues in schools is critically important. According to the Association for Children's Mental Health, 1 in 5 children and youth have a diagnosable emotional, behavioral, or mental health disorder, and 1 in 10 young people have a mental health challenge that is severe enough to impair how they function at home, school, or in the community. Do you believe the school district is doing enough to address students' behavioral and mental health needs? Why or why not?
Thank you for this question. The school district recently entered into a partnership with UC Health, Yampa Valley Medical Center, a board that I have the great fortune of volunteering with, as well as a partnership with the Craig Sheckman Family Foundation to support increasing school counselors in the schools. I think this is absolutely critical. We need to have school counselors specifically devoted to providing students with support for social and emotional health. Right now at the high school, our counselor is tasked with college and career readiness and support of students in those ways, in addition to meeting all of their social and emotional needs. The level of stress on students continues to rise, and we as a school district need to continue to promote and provide action plans on how to continue to support social and emotional health. We have a grant that will expire in 3 years, and we need to already be thinking about what to do when that grant expires.
Great. Kim, same question to you, and at any time I'm happy to repeat the question.
This is obviously a passion for me, mental health. I am aware of the grant that was received for the school, and I know that they have a supplemental counselor that goes into the high school specifically right now. She is so backlogged, she can't even remotely see as many kids that need or want to see her or are brave enough to see her. I'm excited that the Sheckmans and UC Health stepped up, but we definitely, I agree with Kelly, need to go forward with having a sustainable mental health and behavioral program in the schools. I think it also goes back to safety in the schools. We don't like to talk about it, but the school shooting situation usually are upset kids that get overlooked, and that's a mental health behavioral issue that we need to take seriously and have a long-term plan for.
Thank you. Joey.
I think there's a lot more that we can do. One thing that we need to keep in mind when it comes to mental health and with students, and we are very fortunate to have the funding that we do at this time, is that we also, as a school district, need to recognize that some of our parents aren't as familiar with social media and the causes and stresses that are contributing to these mental health issues. And so, as a district, I think we should also continue to provide opportunities to inform parents to help recognize the signs. Increasingly, along with parent training, we have done a really good job in providing education for our staff, where our staff is able to now go and rely on trained medical professionals to undertake a process called mental health first aid and recognizing the first and early signs. Not only does this help us with compliance with the Colorado enacted Claire Davis Act, but it's also helping us with our students and overall our community.
Thank you. Tony.
Well, I guess no one's really addressed why we don't have counselors in the school or school psychologists already, because we rubber stamp raises for district administration to 4 times to 5 times as much as a teacher or a person that puts hands on students. Let's cut some district administration costs, put a school psychologist, more counselors, hands-on with kids, and we'll be able to address those problems people are talking about. Being top-loaded with money, everything's always a money issue. However, we don't make any cuts and put the money where it needs to be, where the people are actually interacting with the kids. We don't need top-heavy district administration. We need it with the kids. Put more counselors, more school psychologists, put the budget to it. We've had a management problem. It's not a budget problem, we've had a management problem with the budget. Put it towards the kids.
Thank you. Laura.
About first mental health. Of course, it is critical in our schools. I saw it in my classrooms. It seriously impacts how successful we are with our students in the classroom. I do know that every district staff member and teacher was exposed to trauma-informed care and mental health first aid, because we are the first responders. And oftentimes we are doing much more than teaching in the classroom. It's a testament to how much teachers really carry with them to do what's best for students in the classroom. I do know that our counselors work extremely closely with the teachers in our school district. They are coming into intervention classes and doing classes on bullying, on growth mindset, on how to spot someone who's in trouble. And we oftentimes use our social media to help support students in that endeavor.
Thank you very much. Okay, the next question, Kim, we'll start with you. If the school bond issue does not pass, how would you suggest the district move forward from that?
Well, being on the DAC as long as I was, that's the District Accountability Committee. I got to see shortly after the first bond failed how Mark Ryberg, our accountant, who can be kind of a magician at times, how to really go line by line and still fulfill the needs that are needed in our capital improvement situation. I think something the community needs to understand is no means no. If you say no to this, that means the capital improvements that would be going to these other schools would not happen. We had our maintenance person, Pascal, come in. He informed us at that time that our doorknobs were not up to code to keep our kids safe in a lock-in or lock-down situation. We had to scramble through the budget line by line to find a way to pay for doorknobs. And we'll do it again, and there'll be sacrifices. I hope it's not staff. It'll be painful, and we'll survive, but it's a cumulative effect. It'll start to wear on this community, and we won't be top 10 anymore. So I hope not, but we'll find a way to do it if we have to.
Thank you, Kim. Joey, same question.
In the event that the bond and mill levy for funding it were to fail, I would suggest that the board revisit priority projects and then look at how we can fund those in different needs. A few years ago, the district was able to utilize resources and find ways of saving money, which included replacing a boiler that was older than I am. At that time, we thought it was a tremendous expense, but over the last 4 years has saved us over $500,000 in terms of purchase of gas fuel for that boiler at the high school alone. One of our most expensive buildings is the 7th Street building in terms of utility costs, and yet has the lowest amount of impact to students. We need to start looking at how these buildings, which were underfunded during the Great Recession, are overall impacting the district, and then making an assessment on what of those buildings we can look to utilize in different ways.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Sorry about that. Tony, your turn.
If the bond fails, we as a school board should conduct a deep analysis of why it failed and what lessons can be learned in the future. It will be imperative to include community and business representatives in the discussion. The school board as community representatives could lead a clear strategic planning process for improving our schools and supporting students and teachers. The strategic plan would need to include finding ways to foster more community buy-in and build upon the past. Work in the findings from 10+2 committee that successfully got a high school renovated in the mid-90s, and the community for Education that has spent almost 2 years working with the community on various issues, including accountability, communications, policies, facilities. We can build upon the work that has already been done by these community committees and school district advisory groups from 2018-2019.
Thank you. Lara?
Well, as a teacher in the middle school, I'm acutely aware of the facilities needs in our school district. I do want to say I did personally redecorate a closet to create a teacher's lounge. So that was fun, and it actually turned out really great. But we eat in our own classrooms. We often have students in our classrooms because the lunchroom, the cafetorium is outrageously loud and crowded. So if the school bond fails, we definitely will need to go back to the drawing board. We'll need to gather up the stakeholders again, and we'll have to determine why our community is so resistant to funding safe and appropriate schools, facilities for our students. We are a town that is growing. I don't know how we could imagine, it's 1 minute.
No, it's time.
It's time.
That was super confusing, Catherine. Callie?
If the bond were to fail, we need to immediately put students first and think creatively about how we use what we have now to make sure we're setting them up for success. As soon as we have a plan in place, once that's done right, we need to then bring the right people to the table. It's critical that we have parents and we have community leaders and business leaders come together, especially those folks who might not be touched by the schools right now, and get their opinion, their feedback. We need to dive into the data and decide what our community does support, so we can prioritize those projects and make sure we're doing right by our kids. Whatever we do next needs to have more than 51% of voter support. And I think we can do that, but if it were to fail, then it's back to the drawing board, where we as a community come together, we gather a diverse stakeholder group, and we say, what can we do to make sure the next bond does pass?
Thank you. Okay, next question. We will start with Joey. Our district has a steadily increasing number of English as second language learners. Do you believe the district is doing enough to support these students?
The demographic of ELL students or English language learner students is growing, and it's going to continue to grow. I think as a district, we need to continue to look at how we can have dual immersion with those students, but I think it's important too to recognize that just alone in our kindergarten class this year, we have 23 different languages represented. 23. That's a huge number. And I think part of it too that we need to recognize is how do you reach out to 23 different languages in parent announcements? We can continue to grow the program, but we also need to recognize how we can utilize the strengths of those students and the material that they've already brought to the district to enrich our classrooms and to also provide a better education for them.
Tony?
Will you repeat the question, please?
Yes. We have, the district has a steadily increasing number of English as second language learners. Do you believe the district is doing enough to support those students?
Well, obviously, I'd have to get in and learn more about it. I'm not intimately in the schools every day or on the board to know any better. However, I do deal with hundreds of kids every Monday and Wednesday through Steamboat Youth Athletics. And our English as a second learners, they seem to be functioning very well in our community, which is great. So obviously, there is some learning going on, which is outstanding. But let's be honest, we can always get better in everything we do, no matter what. Therefore, do I think, I can't answer that, I'm not there. I'll have to go in, listen, and learn. But no matter what, we can improve all aspects of everything we do in the district.
Thank you. Lara?
As far as our English language learners, we are making some pretty good strides in supporting their needs. We have a newcomer program at the high school that's been pretty successful. It's new, so usually it takes 3 to 5 years to kind of see how a productive and effective program like that is. However, we do have a significant achievement gap for our English as a second language learners, so we do need to do more. The best thing to do is actually to look at the data, to look at initiatives that actually work, and spend the money for things that actually work. One thing that is important is really getting back into reading. Reading is the #1 way to close the achievement gap. And so when we're exposing our ELL learners to more language and language-enriched environments, then we are going to close the achievement gap.
Thank you. Kelly?
Laura is spot on. We are doing a lot of wonderful things as a district, such as that newcomers program, as well as the ACE Club, that's at Soda Creek, and a few other organizations I've had the pleasure participating or volunteering with or hearing from. It's pretty inspiring to see those students coming to this country, having English as a second language, and still devoting themselves every day to learning. However, we as a district continually are not meeting the state standards for the majority of that population. I looked at our historic data, and we're often approaching or does not meet for that specific subgroup, and so I know that there is more we can do. Specifically, some of those items are to provide more support for those programs I mentioned, but also to look at some of the successful English language learning programs around the country and to implement their best practices here in Steamboat Springs.
Thank you. Kim?
Yeah, I would agree with Laura. I think it has improved a lot. I know that we have some dedicated ELL school instructors in the elementaries now that we didn't have before, which is huge. I know that Integrated Community is an amazing nonprofit in our community that works with the schools and community members at large, and I invite anyone that doesn't know about that population to spend some time at Integrated Community. You'll learn so much. Sheila Henderson used to be the director there, and she schooled me. It might be pie in the sky, but I would love to see bilingual schools. I think that would really put us forward, put our students forward. 90% of kids that graduate bilingual have an advantage over the kids that do not, a 92% advantage over kids that do not graduate bilingual. So our kids, by not graduating bilingual, are at a disadvantage with the world population and the world community. We're in a state now where our kids are global citizens. And
Great. Okay, now we are on, I believe, to our last question. Tony, we'll start with you. What do you believe are the 3 biggest challenges facing the Steamboat Springs School District?
Well, first of all, coming together and not being a fractured district and a fractured school district, which I think some of these bond issues are creating, this division within our community and in our school. We need to hold everyone in our district accountable. We need everyone from the very top to our students need to be held accountable. We ask our kids to be accountable. We need our administration to be accountable. Also, I think people need to listen. We don't listen. There's a natural assumption all the time, and we can no longer afford to rubber stamp this administration. We need to listen to our constituents. We need to listen to the people in the community. Our community is a very educated community, very bright people, and some of those are the challenges there. Other than that, I think we have an amazing school district. Our teachers are starting with amazing talent.
Thank you. Laura?
Our school district's doing really great things for kids, but I don't believe it is about accountability. I think we have tremendous accountability. I think what we need is a school board that will set a clear vision for our schools throughout every single school, and that all of our school meetings, our in-service, our workshops are supporting that vision. We do need to close the achievement gap, and we do need to pay attention to our special populations. We're doing a really great job with the 80% in the middle, but we need to really give some attention to our English language learners, low-income students, special ed, and even our GT population. It's not just about closing the achievement gap, but also working on growth for all of our schools, our students, making sure that their data-based and evidence-based practice is being used by all teachers.
Thank you. Kelly.
There's a clear reason I've chosen to align with Krista Brickman and Laura Craig and running for school board, and it's because of that shared vision. It's what Laura just mentioned, that the achievement gap should be our #1 priority as a school district. We are doing so well, consistently in that top 10, and yet we don't want to pat ourselves on the back because we have those special subgroups, those students with disabilities, the English language learners, and those from a disadvantaged socioeconomic background who are consistently, as a group in those state standards, struggling. I'd like to see continued focus on those populations. I'd also like to see support for retaining and recruiting high-quality staff. Right now, when we have vacant positions, sometimes those starting salaries are not appealing to the best and the brightest. We need to raise those. Additionally, I'd like to see increased focus on social and emotional health, which I had the pleasure of speaking about earlier, as well as better communication with community members. One of those things I'd love to do, if elected, would be to increase a public discussion around school district processes. At the workshops currently, there's no time for public comment, and I'd like to see more engagement from the school board with the public.
Thank you. Kim.
Okay, so 3 things. Clearly, I believe the capital improvement projects are an issue. Our teachers should not be using a closet for their lounge, their teacher's lounge. That's just kind of not right. That's just one example of many. And that's because the teacher's lounge became a classroom. I think teacher retention and a livable wage is really important. I know for a fact we lost at least 2 amazing high school teachers that were wonderful with my kids at the high school, that were passionate about teaching, but they got offered a better paying job in town, so they left. And that's a bummer. It's inefficient and expensive to retrain, rehire, start all over again. And it's hard, like Kelly said, to even get them to come over with these low wages in front of them. And number 3, and this is probably the hardest in the 11 years I've been in this district, is to get community buy-in for the schools in this community. 71% of people don't have kids at the school, and they've never had kids in our district and won't have kids in our district. So we've got to get them to buy into how important schools are in this community. I believe it's the bedrock for any community.
Thank you. Joey?
For me, I think there's 3 fundamentals that the school district and Board of Education need to continue to focus on. While the Steamboat Springs School District has been ranked in the top 10 school districts out of the total of 179 districts statewide, that doesn't necessarily mean that Colorado is the benchmark of perfection for what we should be striving for. Let's continue to look at all 50 states. Let's continue to look at the states back east that have, yes, higher funding, but also higher performance. Let's continue to narrow the gaps with our students that are on ELL, IEP, 504 plans. Additionally, facilities. We know that classrooms under staircases don't work. Our students aren't Harry Potter. It doesn't work. That impacts our most vulnerable populations. And finally, one of the things that we need to understand is we are the biggest little district in the state of Colorado. Quite literally, at over 2,600 students, we are a district that has growing pains and needs to recognize that we have to start making some adjustments, and that's an attitude adjustment. So.
Thank you. Now we'll do the 1-minute closings, and we're going to start with Tony and come this way. So Tony, your turn.
Yes, I will be you guys hear me, sorry. I will be an independent voice of parents and teachers. I will not march in lockstep with anyone. while collaborating with other entities to gain success. I will encourage input from my constituents, act as their representative, mindful of that input. I will seek accountability as to spending of budgets and funds. I will seek allocations of greater portion of school budget to those that have hands-on interactions with our student and not to administration. I will make certain that our students have tools necessary to support their future expectations. I will seek excellence in all aspects of our students' education and performance. Tony Rosso, an independent voice for parents, teachers, and community.
Thank you. Joey.
Thank you. I'd like to thank everyone for coming out. My name is Joey Andrew. On the ballot is Joseph Andrew. For the 4-year term, you have the option to circle 3 names. I hope I'm one of those. I think it's important to note that this district is doing more with less. Every year, $2 million is shortchanged to the Steamboat Springs School District through the budget stabilization factor, or the BS factor. We are, I didn't name it, we are sharpening our pencils. We are doing that. There is more that we can do. And I want to be the voice that will meet with you in the grocery store, the produce aisle, or wherever you find me, to continue to represent your thoughts and ideas and considerations and bring that to the Board of Education. I think it's important to note too, this district's a lot more than just the board. It's the community, it's our staff, it's you, the 71% of eligible voters and property tax owners that don't have kids in our district. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Kim.
Thanks again, everyone. I really hope to continue my hard work for this community and school district. I love learning and I love research, and it has been a wonderful surprise for me that our school board, CASB and CAA in Denver have offered more training as we've been running. Some of us took advantage of that. I haven't missed one, so we can hit the ground running right when we get in there. I hope it's okay if I quote an esteemed former board member and an educator, Margaret Huron. She said to keep your eyes on the prize, our kids. I hope to do that. I promise to continue learning, listening, and working hard for you if you elect me. Thanks, Kim.
Okay. Kelly.
The research tells us what makes schools highly effective. It's high quality instruction, it's visionary school leadership, it's high expectations for students, effective use of data, open dialogue and trust between the parents and the schools, as well as a clear vision with buy-in from the community. I'm a committed volunteer for our schools. I have the background and experience in education policy and an understanding of what the research says, as well as the willingness to collaborate and the time and energy to commit to this volunteer role. I want to be a part of a board that builds off of the district's current performance and sets a path towards sustained student achievement, growth, and preparedness academically, socially, and behaviorally. We have historically been ranked high in this state, but our students need to be prepared to compete in a global economy. If elected, I will make data-driven decisions with the goal of improving student success for every Steamboat Springs School District student. My name is Kelly Latterman, and I hope I will have your vote for the Steamboat Springs Board of Education. Thank you.
Thank you. Laura, I'm going to close us out for this
I
portion.
want to thank you in advance for considering me for a 4-year seat on the school board. I want to thank the pilot for hosting this forum. As a mom and an educator in this district, I am uniquely qualified to listen to community concerns and make sound decisions that will have an impact on the success of our students and staff in all of our schools and across all grade levels. I know firsthand our schools are good, but I want to work for the next 4 years to make our schools excellent. I believe this can be accomplished if we align our staff and administration district-wide by adopting a strong and clear vision, if we use evidence-based practices in all classrooms, and if we provide teachers the time and the resources to implement that evidence-based practice. I believe all of our students deserve to have the opportunity to reach their potential and to meet the needs of the 21st century beyond Steamboat Springs. Please vote for me. I'm Laura Craig. I have the passion, knowledge, and time to dedicate to this district and will strive to create excellence for all students in our schools.
Thank you.